Hi, I'm Marc, and welcome to the weekly Outside Views report on the politics in Asia and Oceania. Tensions between China and Taiwan continue to rise. According to the Chinese military exercises are planned north, south, and east of the island of Taiwan. China has started a 3-day military exercise around the island of Taiwan amid rising tensions when I'm filming this. The Chinese army announced on Saturday that the 3-day exercise was a warning to separate forces in Taiwan. The military exercises will be held on schedule north, south, and east of the island of Taiwan, as the army said in their statement. State media reported that China is trying to encircle Taiwan. The task force will organize simultaneous patrols and advances around the island of Taiwan to establish an encirclement and deterrent posture, CCTV said. These operations are a serious warning about the interaction between separatist forces seeking Taiwan independence and external forces and their provocative activities, said a spokesman for the Chinese army. Taiwan accused China of endangering regional security. Taiwan is under growing pressure from China. Since the split between China and Taiwan in 1949, Beijing has viewed the island as a breakaway territory that it wants to reunite with the mainland, if necessary using military force. A visit by Taiwan by McCarthy's predecessor, Nancy Pelosi, in August had led to a serious crisis. In response, the Chinese army had held the largest military maneuvers in its history in the waters around the island. Leaders of both parties in the US Congress have invited South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol to address a joint session of the US Parliament. The speech should take place on April 27th to mark the 70th anniversary of the alliance between the two countries, according to the invitation published on Thursday. The letter, dated Tuesday, was signed by Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, House Republican Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, and House Democratic Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. North Korea says it has tested a nuclear-capable underwater attack drone. The unmanned underwater vehicle HALE-2 has superior military potential for the future of its own armed forces, as the state-controlled media reported on Saturday. In this way, all enemy military actions could be kept in check. The largely isolated country sees the United States and South Korea as enemies. The test reportedly took place 4 days until Friday. The drone traveled 1,000 kilometers of a simulated underwater distance in more than 71 hours before the test warhead detonated in the target area of the East Coast. The test run confirmed the reliability and attack capability of the strategic weapon system, as they say. A representative of the World Health Organization, the WHO, used unusually sharp words to warn China's cooperation in researching the coronavirus. The highest-ranking COVID-19 expert at the WHO, Maria van Kerkhove, criticized in a comment in the renowned US journal Science that Chinese scientists had withheld data from virus samples from the metropolis of Wuhan for 3 years. The lack of disclosure of data is simply inexcusable, wrote the epidemiologist who has been informing the world public about the corona situation since the first infections in Wuhan became known. The WHO only learned about certain genetic information from the central Chinese metropolis in mid-March this year, after it was briefly accessible on an international database. According to van Kerkhove, the data provide important clues as to the importance of a market in Wuhan for the original spread of the virus. However, blood tests from workers at the live animal markets in Wuhan or the farms of origin of the animals are still necessary. The WHO expert called for the immediate provision of the relevant data on the origin of the virus. The more time elapses, the more difficult the research work, which is important for preventing future outbreaks, becomes. Time is running out, she warned. Australia, like other Western countries before it, has banned the use of the short video app TikTok on government employees' cell phones. The decision was made on the advice of intelligence and security experts because of security concerns, said Australia's Attorney General Marc on Tuesday. The instruction will come into effect as soon as possible. Exceptions are only granted in special cases and with appropriate security measures, explained Dreyfus. TikTok is under increasing political pressure because the platform belongs to the ByteDance group from China. The online platform does not come from the USA and is nevertheless very successful in the West, and thus a big exception. In the US and Europe, there is growing concern that Chinese authorities and intelligence agencies are using it to collect information from users and use it for improper purposes. The rivals Iran and Saudi Arabia want to offer flight connections between the two countries again as part of their rapprochement and make it easier for the citizens of the other country to issue visas. This was decided by Foreign Ministers Hussein Amir Abdollahian and Faisal bin Farhan at a joint meeting in Beijing on Thursday. At first, they did not give a time frame for the implementation of their plans. In a joint statement after the meeting, both countries also announced their intention to reopen their embassies. Accordingly, Riyadh and Tehran also want to establish trade relations and work together on investments in science and other areas. The two also want to cooperate on security issues in the future. The meeting of the two foreign ministers was the first of its kind in more than 7 years. China had brokered a fresh start between Riyadh and Tehran behind the scenes. Iran is stepping up its crackdown on women who don't wear a headscarf in public. Cameras would be installed in public places and roads for control and identification purposes, as the police announced on Saturday in a statement, distributed via the state media and the Mizan Justice portal. Should women violate the dress code, they received a warning via SMS. They would also be informed about the possible penalties. The police also called on shopkeepers to ensure compliance with what they call social norms. In Iran, even after the violent suppression of the protest rallies, women have been appearing in public without the mandatory headscarf for months as a sign of their resistance to the government. The protests were triggered by the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini, who died in police custody in mid-September. The Vice Squad arrested her for allegedly wearing her headscarf incorrectly. Under Sharia law, introduced in 1979 in the wake of the Islamic Revolution, women are required to cover their hair and wear long, loose-fitting clothing to hide their figure. Violators face fines or arrest. And this concludes this week's report on Asia and Oceania. I'll see you in my next video that you find right here in the end screen. I'll be back.